Oh, it has been a minute or two. Welcome back to LFG, your favorite franchise education, unfiltered or filtered most of the time. Let's be honest. Uh, franchise podcast. I am Michael Heim, in case you forgot who I am, and this is Leanne Caruso, my beautiful co-host. Leanne, I heard it was your I heard it was a big weekend for you. Like, I don't want to give any numbers off, but like, if you're on the YouTube watching, Leanne is like I mean, what do people call you now? Like old fart or?
First of all, it's not happened yet. So
Oh,
I'm
oh, you just
I am still
you
young.
just had a picture of. Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. That's right.
And
For
I'll
like
still be young next week, but
uh,
older
I
than
mean,
you.
you'll be out of this hemisphere, but yeah, for sure, for sure. So how's it going? So how was it? I heard like you
I
had like
know.
a some I don't want to say what was that like some old timer band came.
Oh my God. Yeah, we've been on a bit of a hiatus because you and I have both been on big vacations. I was in Key West for 10 days and I had a big birthday celebration with my dear friend Erica. We're both celebrating pretty big birthdays this year, but
Right,
we don't live a
Erica.
day over 35, I don't think.
I mean, at least
And
I just
lots of people join us in the Keys, and it was really, really great. But I do have a big birthday next week.
that is so fun. It's
I'll be
50
40. Isn't
people.
that great? Remember
40
when you were,
people showed up.
remember when you turned 40?
I don't, because it's coming up in a couple of years.
Oh my God, the lies.
Oh my goodness, that is great. So lots of fun in the Keys. And oh wait, I thought that was Nashville, or no, that was something completely different.
No, I did a Nashville celebration
Oh,
too.
oh my gosh.
As you know, July birthdays, we celebrate
I
a
guess
lot.
so. No wonder
Leos.
we haven't had a podcast and
But you were gone too. Tell us
I
about your
was
trip.
not. I have been working away. Some of us have to keep us afloat, Leanne,
Oh,
while
whatever.
others are
You were out of the country for like 10 days.
yeah.
It was the quietest 10 days I've ever had.
Uh,
Anyway,
oh,
so
good. That's
it's good to
good.
be back. We're recording two today, and yeah, we've had a little hiatus, but today we have Katherine LeBlanc, who is a fractional CMO and marketing consultant with Apollo CMO, and we're going to be talking about franchise development and franchise development marketing and how it kind of gets lost in the franchisor system. So I'm excited to talk to her about it.
That is super fun. Looking forward to that. Now, before we get to it, our next segment is Franchise Royals, as we all know. Leanne, who is this segment brought to us by, and what do they have to say for themselves?
Well, this segment is brought to us by our good friends at Netsertive. And if you've listened to this podcast, you know that I work with a lot of marketing partners in franchising. One frustration I hear all the time is disconnected systems, which is what we're about to talk about today. But reporting in one place, ad platforms in another, and no clear view of what's actually working locally. That's where Netsertive comes in. They bring localized strategy, expert teams, and their MLX technology platform together so performance data lives in one place and locations can grow more efficiently. If that sounds helpful for your brand, visit netsertive.com to learn more. So, Michael, you've had time to think about this. Who is your franchise royal for today?
I've had time to think about this. I didn't need to think very long. I have many franchise roles that I could name off the
Yes.
top of my head because you've been on vacation for so long.
Oh my
So
God. Stop putting this on me. You were on vacation just as long.
I would love to give a shout out to my good buddy, franchise colleague, a true royal in every sense of the word, Tim Courtney, who
Mm.
started with All Dry Services. Tim, you've been a friend for a very long time to both Leanne and I. I'm sure. Well, at least I call you a friend. She says other nasty things. I mean,
Oh my God, stop.
oh my gosh, Tim!
Love Tim.
Congratulations at your appointment for All Dry Services. I mean, you have you're a legend. Everybody knows you. I don't need to say all kinds of good
Yeah.
things But we love you, and I just wanted to
Yes,
give you a shout out and say congrats on your new venture, and looking forward to hearing all about it. Leanne,
congratulations, Tim. Yes.
what do you think
Um,
about that? Tim
I love it.
Courtney.
I was so excited to see that announcement. Yeah, very good. Love to hear Tim Courtney. He is a legend, so that's awesome. So another legend, I think, in franchising also had a very, very big move and big announcement. My franchise royal goes to Josh Wall, who is now the CEO of Bright Star Care, which is amazing. Amazing for Bright Star. I know Unleashed will miss him, but what a great move for Josh. So very exciting. Yay.
Yay, congratulations, Josh. That is fantastic. That is huge.
It's very big.
All right, so on to show and tell. But what do we have before show and tell yet?
We have a commercial from Paperfly. So watch if you're on YouTube, listen if you're on Spotify or Apple.
Oh, are you saying that it is a visual commercial on YouTube?
There is a actual visual commercial, and it's really good. And if you
I
haven't heard of
love it.
Paperfly, I think you should check them out. We actually just our last episode was with Tommy Frank of Paperfly, but they have a very, very cool platform that you should check out. Watch the commercial if you haven't seen it on YouTube.
Creating marketing materials for your franchise shouldn't be a choice between speed and brand consistency. Paperfly gives local franchises the power to create and adapt brand-approved marketing materials in minutes without needing a designer. With design templates and one central portal, campaigns launch faster, giving you built-in visibility and complete brand governance. See why franchise networks trust Paperfly to deliver thousands of brand-consistent assets at scale. Visit paperfly.com.
Okay, and back to the show. Congrats again to our friends Tim and Josh. We are now getting to the meat and potatoes of the LFG podcast, the show and tell segment, where we have an industry leader, an expert, someone who is glorious in all the things franchising. And boy, oh boy, do we have someone glorious. If you're watching us on YouTube, you're gonna see her lovely hair. We've got Katherine LeBlanc of fractional CMO and marketing consultant with Apollo CMO. Katherine, for anyone who doesn't know you, because we know most
Yep.
people do, but for those that don't, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. And so excited to be here with you and Leanne. I am Katherine LeBlanc. As you mentioned, I am a franchise growth and marketing consultant. I've been in the franchising industry for the last 13 years, kind of caboosing a 20-year marketing career. And I couldn't enjoy it more. I've worked on brands from food to health and wellness to not health and wellness. And it's really fun. For me, when I talk to people about franchise marketing and what we do here, I always say, we're solving problems that a lot of marketers don't get to solve because of the different audiences that we talk to and the different kind of pressures that come with having stakeholders, depending on the size of your brand, you have 600 to 50 stakeholders, no matter what you do. And so, been operating in this space for a bit and excited to talk to you guys about some of the things that I've been seeing in the last couple of months.
And Katherine has been a beast with recording podcast after podcast. I'm like so impressed with all the stuff that she's doing. My dogs are going to bark. Hopefully, you can't hear that. But so one of the things that Katherine and I have kind of like gone on a roll on is the disconnect between franchise marketing and franchise development marketing. So I think oftentimes franchise brands forget or don't place emphasis on franchise marketing efforts with the same level that they do with consumer. And the franchise marketing teams are not supporting the franchise development sales department as they should. And then franchise development sales is out on their own with their own vendor partners, with their own messaging, with one goal in mind, and that goal is leads. But there's a whole bigger picture. Marketing should be supporting sales, and there should be a connector between the two departments. So I could go on and on about this all day, but Katherine, what are your thoughts?
Well, and you can see how it happens, right? And I've been at big organizations and I've been at small organizations. And kind of rightly so, the consumer marketer is focused on consumer and the name of their game is driving demand for the franchisees so that they can achieve maximum profitability, which is the key to growth in any franchise organization. And so, yes, the franchise marketing kind of arm is focused on consumer. But then you have this whole like, okay, well, we need to grow. And so you have your franchise growth department, your development department, franchise sales, we call it different things. And you can kind of see how that happens because typically you see leaders get promoted in that space who are salesmen. They start and finish their careers as selling the brand. And selling, to Leanne's point, is very different than marketing. Marketing supports the selling with the messaging, the stories, the channels, how we go to market. And so you can see how the disconnect happens. And I think that, there has been a bit of a trend that I've seen, at least in the last couple of months, of really recognizing that this is a disconnect. And I think it's just related to the fact that it's harder to get quality leads into the franchise sales pipeline. And so we're rethinking, okay, well, how do we need to do that? And there's a recognition that marketing probably needs a seat at the table. Now, I would say, Leanne, I think that you bring up a good point. The consumer marketing team does neglect franchise development. It's just not a priority. And so, I'm curious from your perspective, is it that we need more marketing discipline, kind of education within the development kind of ecosystem, or does those marketers need to have more of an arm in the development process? Because I could see it going both ways. Because if you have a solid marketer with development, they know how to bring that consumer story into the fold.
Sorry, guys, my dogs were barking. So I think that's a great point. I think for me, the way that I see it working the easiest is the CMO oversees the marketing for both consumer and franchise development. So that way there's a connection, there's a bridge. But I think that the brands that are most successful in franchise marketing sales, you notice that they have a franchise marketer in-house. And so they have someone overseeing franchise marketing within the entire ecosystem. And so they understand the brand through and through. They just more support the franchise development side. And then the sales isn't stuck doing it on their own. So that's kind of the way I see it working the most fluid, because I think what's happening now is, like you said, the consumer side is doing all the consumer marketing, and even the CMOs and VPs of marketing are focused on consumer because that's where the bread and butter is, right? But really we have two brands here, right? And so someone needs to be focused on the franchise development side and supporting the sales, because then sales relies on an agency to run the strategy, to own the strategy, to own the messaging. And it's
well, but they want that agency to just run paid ads. So they don't really give that agency to actually bring strategy to the table. And we've I think pinholed them there because we're obsessed with cost per leads. We're obsessed with more leads through the door. And to get more leads through the door, you start really depending on transactional, non-brand, core brand messaging to get there. And I think, to your point, okay, it's two brands, right? And so when we think about brand building, it's always marketing is momentum, right? And brand building is momentum. And so when you are setting up your development marketing program, it's really twofold. It's what am I doing foundationally to build momentum over time that this is a solid brand to invest in addition to layering on the transactional activities like paid media, like the, we call it, creating demand versus capturing intent, right? And so you have to be doing both. And it's that creating demand that I think most franchise development programs leave on the table. They really depend on the consumer to this consumer like brand to create the demand. And while it's imperative, the consumer brand is creating demand, it's imperative that you have strong operations, you have strong reviews, you have a solid brand that people want to visit. That's table stakes in order to get somebody to actually spend $1 million investing in your brand. But you have to also build the communication and messaging platforms around that brand foundation, even on the prospecting side. And I think that's the gap that is I see the most, is that there is no demand creation investment ongoing, because we want those dollars tied to an ROI in every single section. So
Interesting.
when, go ahead, Michael.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, when we think about like that creating demand on the Fran Dev side, I think it's a little bit of a foreign activity. And so, Leanne, I'm curious, because you work on that Fran Dev as that Fran Dev marketer for a lot of brands. What are some of the first things that you do to establish kind of that foundation demand creation piece?
So for me, I think, first of all, I think the brand and the messaging has to be consistent
Mm-hmm.
through consumer to franchise development, even though it's two completely different strategies, tactics, initiatives, all of that stuff. So I think that the messaging though has to be complete. I think that the consumer side, then I think to your point, like it has to be set and it has to be foundationally good. Reviews have to be there. All of those things have to be in place in order to for the validation side of the B2B. But then I think, then you go into your usual tactics that are out there. It's just the messaging is completely different. The website is different. The traffic is different,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. So I think the most critical piece is bridging the gap and not keeping them siloed.
Mm-hmm.
However, that is whether through people or agencies or strategy or keeping everybody in the loop, the messaging, all of those things. I work with a brand that both sides are completely different. Like they have no support on the franchise development side, no
Right.
graphic support, no
Right.
messaging support, no content, website, completely different vendors. I mean, everything is
Right.
different
Mm-hmm.
and nobody's checking in on it. Nobody.
Right.
Like I think that one of the CMOs one time was like, "Wait, why are you doing it that way? Like that's not how we do it." And it's like, how did you know that?
How do we do that?
How would a
Yeah, right.
how would a sales guy know that difference? So I think like main step number one is making sure that all of the initiatives are somehow connected and the communication between the departments is constant.
Well, but you bring up a good point around accountability, right? And that's where I think that's where I do think it falls down, right? Because the CDO is held accountable to how many leads am I getting in, how many leads am I closing, and how many have I sold, and hopefully they're also connected into the opening process and how many did I open. But and so when they have internal pressures around, hey, we didn't see enough, they then, to your point, turn to the agency to say, hey, we need more. And I think that's where a gap is can start to be created, because that CDO again does not have any marketing training or understand that the like how to create and build the momentum that you need to then sustain those ebbs and flows that you're going to have in paid media. And so, Leanne, to your point, I think, one of the first things is around what does your website look like? Website's becoming less and less important, but it is kind of the place where your messaging is all in one place and it's long form. And so, are you hitting on some unique things that your brand offers that the competitor brand doesn't? And a lot of times, I find brands we're all saying the same thing, like, hey, you can do this really simply. No, you can't. It's a small business. Hey, this is a low cost investment. No, it's not. It's you're investing in your business. And so we get kind of hooked on these kind of cheap headlines that do drive leads in, but then kind of fall apart when it comes to actually opening and getting them open. And so it's constantly balancing the internal pressures of closing the deal with franchisee success and validation, but also if we are only focused on closing the deal, then those CDOs don't have an incentive to really pay attention to brand building or creating the message that can carry the brand through.
Totally get it. Michael, you deal
So
with the, yeah, go
so just
ahead.
listening in on all of your stuff here, coming from the sales side, and I, of course, I'm on LinkedIn too, and I see all of these conversations where, there's the consumer focus and the friend dev focus. And I like, as the sales guy, I'm just baffled as to why it's like such a complicated thing. Like, why can't, and you tell me, like, coming from the marketing perspective, why is this so difficult? Why can't the marketing, wherever it's coming from, why can't they compartmentalize? Okay, I'm going to spend X amount of time on this and X amount of time on that. And then we'll get whatever it is, whatever. I mean, I'm not saying it necessarily has to be a 50-50 divide. Whatever the time is, I mean, if they focus on that or they focus on that, I mean, I don't know. Does there really need to be multiple people involved there? Or, I mean, you guys tell me, like, what, like, it could. And again, I mean, I'm going now to like, it's stemming from leadership. Like, is this a leadership issue? Like, I'll give you a perfect example. So I work on the franchise show, of course, right? And we put on 13 franchise shows all across the country. I am the sales. You call it left brain, right brain. My brain is the sales. So whatever you want to say, take it that way. But I do, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I'm not really too happy when I have to get in on the marketing side. But I have to work with all of our departments. I have to work with our show decorators. I have to get things going and work with marketing to get our show guides working, to get the show set up, to get the carpet down, to do all of that stuff. But I also have to sell the show all the time. We make it happen, right? I mean, it's just a thing and we make it happen. So I'm trying to understand, why is it so difficult to just, like, does that make sense or not really?
No,
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think on paper, it sounds really simple. It really does, because from a marketing perspective, and Leanne laid it out well, right? It really is about setup. Here's our messaging, here's our brand guidelines, make sure you follow these, and then go off to the races. But where I think it falls off the rails is that you're handing it off, and the manipulation starts to happen when the agency and the CDO decide this is how we're going to solve our leads issue. We're going to kind of morph the brand in this way so that we get more leads through the door. And I'll give you an example. Creative is one of the most underestimated things in marketing, period. It doesn't matter franchise marketing or whatnot. And the rise of Canva and AI has really allowed us to all be creators. But there is a difference between quality creative, and it's very apparent to the consumer. And as a consumer, I know that when you're seeing good creative. And so, if I have brand guidelines and brand messaging, and I've handed it off to my creative partner, and I'm not providing any oversight, I have seen where brands will significantly change, same logo, but maybe it's, black is more forward than the red brand color. And it's these small tweaks that then make the brand disconnected from the consumer brand, so that, and look, the bottom line is your franchise prospects, number one, are your customers. And so it's that brand consistency in the creative that's going to help them move through the process in a way that then results in a sale. And so that's one micro example of where things get off the rails. And it's not because the franchise marketer hasn't given the guidelines, but for consistent oversight and consistent kind of execution, it doesn't fall on the franchise marketer's plate, because there is simply no time. And the reason why there is no time is because the pressures of that marketer role, whether you have a team of 20 or a team of one, are beyond what one person can handle in any brand. And it's because the marketer role has been, consolidated in a way that is really insurmountable, and that would be a whole nother topic. But I mean, that you're in charge of creative, demand creation, PPC, SEO, on and on and on. That you have to be an expert in all in order to move it forward. In addition to planning the marketing plan, the marketing calendar, and getting franchisee adoption, and telling your CEO, yes, I do know what I'm doing because I've been doing this for a while.
So,
So I'll take it back even further though to answer your question on what I think is happening. So I think it's budgets. So I think what franchisors are getting wrong is that they're looking at it completely two different departments and two different strategies or two different things, but they're not pushing marketing into sales. So they're looking at their franchise development budget as X, and they're backing into their numbers if they're even backing into their numbers right, and they're giving it a budget of Y. And then they only look at that budget as lead gen. They
Yes,
don't look at it as
right.
people.
Yes.
So a franchise development marketer within the same ecosystem is totally forgotten, is totally not even on the table because then that adds to taking leads away to selling, which is the biggest like overstep. It's like stepping over a dollar to pick up a penny. It's like
Right.
such a huge miss in the org structure of, and I think it does come down from leadership, that they need to put more weight into the franchise development marketing piece of franchise development marketing and sales because that's where they're missing. They're only looking at that fran dev budget as a lead gen, and that's it.
Well, and Leanne, you and I talked about this where, we were talking about different lead gen activities for Fran Dev. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head because what we've seen is that those budgets have been gobbled up by, direct to click tactics like PPC, Meta for some. Everybody wants to get into LinkedIn, even though it doesn't work. And so they're asking those dollars to have, and look, the same thing happens on the franchisee side in our kind of consumer marketing side, where we put $1 in, we got $3 out. Oh my gosh, this is the best thing since sliced bread. So I'm going to put all of my dollars in this thing that I'm getting $3 out. Well, a year later, you're only getting $2 out. A year after that, you're only getting $1 out because you didn't do any investment on that brand building foundation that we've been talking about. And so you're seeing a resurgence in things like PR because they're able to attach themselves to this AI race and they're finding a different way to kind of communicate it. But PR is a good example of a brand building foundational tactic that is not going to drive a direct ROI. You're never going to be able to tie a direct ROI to it, and it gets pushed out of the budget because that direct attribution is not available. And so when we get addicted to direct attribution, we then lose brand. And without a marketer in the seat, we lose the voice saying we need the brand there. Those are a really good call out, Leanne.
yeah, hey, no, all good points. Totally makes a lot of sense. Um, so tell me then, why does the same company that obsesses over its consumer experience let the recruitment side as an afterthought?
I think I think that it's because we lose. So marketing is the voice of the consumer at the table when we're talking about the uh, the role that marketing should play overall in an organization. And because the consumer is so different on FranDev, this is a franchisee prospect, this is a high ticket, different kind of sales process than what you normally have. I mean, most franchise brands are going to be lower ticket average, a little bit more consumer driven than what our franchise prospect process is. And so when you don't have that dedicated marketer embedded with the FranDev team, you're losing the voice of the consumer to say, this is what the consumer journey for buying a franchise actually is. And this is how we need to meet them and where we need to meet them on that journey. And again, it comes back to budget and it comes back to organizational structure. And I don't think that there is a lack of desire to sell more franchises. There's always the pressure of how are we selling more franchises and growing, right? Because growth begets growth, and growing is really how a franchise brand creates stability for their franchisees. But I think that there's a I see from even from seasoned marketers in that franchise seat, they're scared of FranDev. And it's like a black box. I don't know how to do that. And they know how to do the thing that they are doing right in front of them, in addition to being overwhelmed, as we talked about. And so it's kind of like a hands off. And Leanne, to your point, that's where we get into these specialized vendors, right? A specialized vendor for FranDev website, a specialized vendor for FranDev advertising. It's marketing. We don't need the specialization, but because our human brains kind of think about ourselves in doubt, we don't think we can handle the Fran Dev sales process, and or we don't have the bandwidth in our brains to do it. At least that's what I think. Leanne, what do you think?
It actually just brought me to a story, like a side note of a brand that I worked with, and this is the complete opposite. So marketing handled all things Fran Dev and wouldn't let sales in on any of it. So sales wasn't in on the vendor calls or anything. So how do they know if the leads are quality, if if things are
Hmm.
working or not working? I mean, it was a complete separation, but the opposite direction. And I'm like, well, that's a miss too. Like, and
Right.
the Fran Dev guy was like so frustrated that he did not have any input. And, and he says things aren't working, and and who knows why they're not working? Where are they breaking in the sales funnel and the marketing? I don't know. But because they're not communicating, that's the other big miss. And it's like
Hmm.
it just reminded me of a complete opposite train wreck. But
Well, but to that point, that's where shared metrics, shared language can really be
yeah.
beneficial because, we're talking about marketing. Marketing often, gets saddled with you have to drive as many leads as possible, and we're only measuring how many leads did we drive and what was the CPL. We're not measuring what those other steps are. How many of these leads actually took a call? How many of these leads got to the application? How many of these leads got to the FDD? And where in that funnel did it break down so that we can then fix what happened between lead and close, and not tracking that information and then sharing that information back, right? And again, this is, when we talk about digital media agencies, they really get a bad rap, but I don't know that we always set them up for success because we're pounding on them for more leads, but then we're not giving them visibility into how did these leads actually perform. And I think getting to transparency and getting to process and shared language really helps in that process, break down those silos.
Totally agree. It's funny, we're talking our next episode is with Greg from Tide House. And so talking about the strategic part that agencies have been
Yeah.
missing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that layers into the strategy of FranDev and who your ICP is, your ideal client profile is, and what messages are going to resonate with them. And what's interesting is I've played with this a little bit, and I've tried to get really specific on messaging and trying to appeal to certain aspects of the franchise brand, but they kind of those messages kind of fall short in those transactional activities. So they fall short in your LinkedIn outreach. They fall short in your paid media sometimes because in those instances, again, people are so used to kind of getting in with that cheap hook. And I think it reinforces the need for the consistent brand voice so that people can really self-select. This sounds like something that I want to belong to. This sounds like something that I really want to be a part of. And then that opens up that customer journey much longer than those, kind of clickbait types of initiatives that we love because they're addictive.
Yeah.
Hey, so if I was to ask both of you, who should own it? Okay, who should be the be all end all? I mean, it should come from the top, but we know that's not happening. So who should be in charge here of really giving the direction? Or you think it's the CMO or the CDO?
My
I
my question is we know it's not happening, but how do we get it to happen? But go on, Catherine.
Yeah, well, look, and this is also something that I think we don't talk enough about in general is the partnership between departments and how all departments really need to be driving towards the same goals. And as the CMO, when I am in the CMO position, I am reaching out to my CDO to say, how can I help you? And yes, I may not own this relationship and we may have this structure that, you are in charge of these numbers, but I want to help you get to your numbers. And so what are the resources and assets that you need to get there? And to Leanne's point, a lot of times it's not possible to pull in what we're working on the consumer side. But if the CDO has an advocate with him to say, hey, I need more resources, and as the CMO, I can back him or her up and say, hey, this is why I can't be the resource that this person needs. I think it really, I was thinking about this the other day. The way that companies get stuff done is not when the CEO is at the table. It's when the leaders, and it doesn't have to be the C-suite, but it can be at the director level, it can be at the manager level. When we're reaching across the aisle to say, how can I help you be successful? And then how can you help me be successful? And that's really where the magic happens. I don't, certainly building out accountability charts and understanding who's in charge of what, it's going to be confusing because it's always going to be or should be managed by both the CDO and the CMO. But when both individuals and departments can recognize this is the goal we're getting to, and we're going to work together to get there, that's where magic happens, and that's just not on an org chart.
Yeah, I don't disagree. All right, we could talk about this forever.
Yes, I really could.
Anything else you want to add before we carry on about our Friday?
I don't, I think the only thing to add, I do think that there's a solve out there, and what I think the solve is by bringing the marketing voice to the table, but I think it can be solved in a number of ways. I think agencies can do a better job of being a little bit more strategic in how they are advising clients. I think that the CEO and the CDO can recognize that some brand foundational things have to happen, and maybe I don't know what all those things are. And there can be an investment, whether it's a full-time investment on the team side or an outsourced investment through a consultant or a contractor to come in and be that marketing voice. I do think it's affordable, and I think that is where it needs to happen. There just needs to be recognition that a marketing voice needs to be part of the conversation, and a check-in of, hey, are we doing this right? And so I think that's the solve, is to really just get that marketing voice at the table.
Yeah, I agree. All right, how can people find you if they want to learn more?
Yes, thank you for asking. So my company is called Apollo CMO. You can find me at apollocmo.com. As Leanne mentioned at the top of this, I also have several podcasts available. Dear Franny is available wherever you get your podcast, and it's geared towards people who are in the messy middle of growth. And then our Franchise Spotlight with Katherine LeBlanc is an interview series with the leaders of the industry on some really interesting topics.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you, Katherine.
Thank you for coming on. Amazing. Thank you, Katherine. That was great. A true great back and forth. Our next segment is Franchise Mingle. Leanne says I talk too much and too loud, so I'm going to bring the tone down just a little bit. So, Franchise Mingle
next to me.
Oh. Franchise Mingle, friends, of course, is what's going on in the franchise world with events and upcoming things. And so we've got a whole bunch of great stuff starting up with the National Franchise Show. This fall, we have 5 cities, Detroit, Philly, Tampa, LA, and Atlanta. If you're growing in any of those markets and want to learn more about the National Franchise Show, to garner great franchisee leads, and feel free to reach out to me. We've got the Fragree Drinker Summit in Minneapolis happening August 18th through to the 19th. Shout out to our friend Megan. Yay! We have Franchising After Dark. If you haven't heard or know what Franchising After Dark is, go to franchisingafterdark.com. But we have 2 events happening in Tampa on October 18th and in Atlanta, November the 15th. We have, Leanne, show your shirt. Franchise Marketing Live. Sorry for those of you that are not on YouTube. Our Franchise Marketing Live conference, which is everything franchise marketing, both Fran Dev and consumer, happening in Denver, November 2nd through the 3rd. Check that out as well, franchisemarketinglive.com. It is actually back-to-back with our Hello Mastermind Fall Retreat happening in Denver, November 4th to the 5th. And we have also just, I don't think we made an announcement about this yet, but we have behind the scenes opened up registration for the Let's Grow Franchise Development and Sales Assembly happening in Dallas this time, folks, not in Fort Worth, in Dallas. We have switched locations. It's not too far, but of course, that's happening January 27th through to the 29th. Leanne, I think we should make an announcement of some sort.
We're about to make an announcement. Also, if anybody actually made it to this far in the podcast, we have a fun new opening party this year, which is, can we tell it?
Oh,
Which is
isn't it? I think it's a go for it. No.
Our opening party is at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, and we're gonna do a backstage tour, behind the scenes tour, and get to go on the field and have dinner there. So very excited about that.
A backstage tour with the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, folks. 30
spread lies.
hot cheerleaders. Wait, am I allowed to say 30 hot cheerleaders? I don't know if that's
Probably not. It's unfiltered. You can say whatever you want.
All right, folks, come on out to see them.
No cheerleaders.
There will be at least one cheerleader there.
Okay. If you're lucky. All right.
Thanks, folks. See you next time.